Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Nonprofits. So, here's some real 2025 energy for you. A high school in Georgia just canceled the Crucible. You know, that play literally written as a warning against religious hysteria and moral panic because a few parents claimed it was demonic. The irony? Practically biblical. This isn't just a canceled performance, it's a symptom of a deeper rot where fear-driven censorship is dressed up as protecting the children. If the Crucible is too dangerous for teenagers, we're not far from calling the Handmaid's Tale an instruction manual. Let's talk about what this means, not just for students, but for the battleground of public education and how we push back. This story is from The Friendly Atheist by Hemant Mehta on May 26, 2025. Okay. I got opinions. Before I go into such opinions about how done this is, I was in a high school production of the Crucible, by the way. I was Sarah Good in our high school production, so I've been in this play. And since I grew up so close to Salem, Massachusetts, we went to Nathaniel Hawthorne's home. So this story felt a little personal to me, especially, you know, growing up in New England and this having such historical, I almost said hysterical, historical relevance. So, Tracy, I kind of want to start with you. What was your kind of feeling when you read this article? And what was your takeaway from how stupid this is?
Well, my takeaway is primarily, I just feel bad for the kids. Yeah. I mean, I'm terribly impressed. I didn't even get to see the show, of course. I didn't get to see the show, but I'm terribly impressed because it mentions in the article and in a few others. I think I looked up one or two other things on this, where their director for the show was removed from school employ like 2 weeks prior to the show actually being put on. And I was a theater kid back in high school as well. I remember those days. And we at my school called the week running up to opening night, we called that Hell Week, just from how much work we'd have to do to get all the lighting cues and everything. You have to really iron everything out in that time. And I'm terribly impressed they were able to put something together that they're apparently proud of. And I'm very sad for them that because apparently not an administrator and probably not one of the kids who's in the show's parent is so upset about this that they have to ruin it for all of those kids.
Of course.
Like that's my takeaway. It's the entitlement I'm always yapping about, that people want things to be exactly according to their own sensibilities and not allow for any other expression. But. So
you mentioned that, you know, you were a theater kid, like I can't imagine the impact this would have on like last minute to put this play on without your director, without your producer. And the kids had to step up. And
student director was doing work, man. Like that's all I'm gonna say.
That's impressive for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely impressive. So, you know, shout out to the kids for getting this done, because that and having to step up and doing the thing that they needed to do. So I'm a little concerned that a few parents complain because apparently they didn't read the play. They just heard that it was about, you know, kids getting possessed by the devil, and they, started pearl clutching and worrying about something that they didn't have to worry about if they actually read the context of the play. But that being said, we know that's kind of messed up. Jason, what like when people are like when we have these type of like moral panics, like canceling the Crucible, do you think it's really about protecting the children, or do you think it's more about people showing their true colors and what kind of narcissists they are?
Well, yeah. You hear that word narcissism thrown around, but when I hear the term narcissism, it's very clinical. And the thing that I've learned about narcissists is that they despise truth. So, okay, so if you tell someone about, let's say Tracy's a narcissist, and I'm like, hey, Helen, Tracy did some shit, and it was really messed up, but it's true. What Tracy's pissed about isn't anything other than the fact that about their stuff that they try to keep secret. So if you tell someone about their actual actions, their actual thoughts, their motivations, they have meltdowns because that facade, it gets exposed. So I'm convinced that this is like a strong example of that. They were able to harness like the fears of idiots to push like an unethical agenda that's based around lies and gaslighting and triangulation, and that's what a narcissist does. I mean, this play, like you said in the intro, the purpose of this play is to highlight multiple issues that all like congregate around one thing, and that's the misuse of authority and authoritarian power with religious undertones. So yeah, I would understand why that would make some people's cognitive dissonance maybe spike a little bit, and then they have to soothe it by being a bunch of effing liars. I mean, no, it's gross. And then the way I was a tech guy. We did Little Shop of Horrors, and I mean, we like theater was the only thing in the high school that anybody cared about. The high school I went to was rough, and so our theater crew, we ran the school, and we had this huge auditorium. It was crazy. And I did tech. We did Little Shop of Horrors. We had a full giant plant, and I mean, it was amazing. We did Dracula. We did everything. So I get it. It's a ton of work. And if Miss Pettit hadn't been there the whole time and had dropped out, man, that would have been insane. We've had people drop out, and it's insane. So these kids, look, this is good because bad press is the best press. These kids are getting attention now. I mean, thousands of people watch these shows. So now we're talking about these kids' performance. Hopefully this does something for them. Anybody watching this, maybe, if you want to reach out and donate some love to some kids, there you go.
I think also too, like, and I know that I brought up the Handmaid's Tale because this is the thing about what's going on is that this, like, it's the same, like I have to imagine that Arthur Miller is just like rolling over in his grave, to cancel this play, which is all about, moral panic and, letting to be swept up in hysteria and the harm that comes from that, because that's what happened during the Salem witch trials, and people died for no reason other than moral panic. So if we're, and I like, and I can, you can feel it in, in the zeitgeist. And that's the thing that why this play, because it's been performed in high schools for a few decades now, and read and studied because it's about authoritarian control, not thinking critically and being swept up into hysteria, which kids need to know about. That's how, and so the fact that parents are concerned has more to say about the fact, more leans on the side of like the book burnings that it has to lead to, like, moral panic and worrying about, the safety of the children. I mean, like, the kids were performing the play. They knew what they were reading, hello. So Tracy. Yes. If you were going to push back against a bunch of entitled parents and that override educators and the students, but the students, they were trying to silence their voice. What would you do as far as your pushback if you had the power to?
So, yeah, would that I were an administrator, be that, a principal or a what you call it, a superintendent or something to that effect. I don't really see the need to even do anything. Like that's what I'm running into here. Like, I really feel like if this was a decision from the principal's side of things, the principal could have easily just done nothing and everything would have been okay. I don't even really see, and I think the pushback you need to do is to just ignore them. Whoever's complaining, if you have the authority to do so. Because at the end of the day, this is a show put on by the school. If let's take it to an analogy. If the high school football team is running plays where I don't know how many people are on a football team, but but they aren't very good. No amount of what's the amount of parents coming to you and complaining about this as an administrator? What amount of parents is going to get you to actually go talk to your to pull your football team out of the season? No, the kids are having fun. They're there to learn about playing sports. They're not there to actually, I mean, different schools have different goals, but like the kids aren't putting on a show to express a certain political agenda. They're putting on a show to express their creativity and to learn about the process of the arts. If you don't want your kid participating in it, that's fine. Pull your kid out. If you don't want to see the show, that's fine. Don't go see it. The school is not going to live or die based off of whether or not little Jimmy, who's in the chorus, or your family comes and buys tickets to the show. I think this is something that could have just been ignored. Then again, I don't know the extent of the complaints. Maybe this came directly from Georgia's House of Representatives. Who knows? We don't have much information, but I think that's a little bit outside of the realm of reality. I think this was either some parents whose kids were in the show and weren't very attentive about it and didn't want to simply pull out their own child from the production. They wanted to ruin it for everyone else. Or it's just, ancillary, unrelated parents who decided to whine and complain. Maybe not even parents. Maybe just random people. I ultimately don't know who lodged these complaints. But it seems like a thing that could have easily been ignored.
Well, and I think that, what is concerning about this is that if, let's just say it's a handful of parents, I don't, like we said, we don't know the extent, but let's just, say that it was, and they had a particular problem with the opening scene and they just made a big hoopla about it. And the fact that the administrators considered folding, that says a lot. And I don't know if the particular parents had any sort of state influence. Maybe would affect funding. We don't know, because if it was one of those things that be ignored where someone was just belly aching, then you can be like, well, don't come. You don't have the kids decide to participate. It could be that if the threat was going to cause actual long-term harm, then we're having a different conversation, but we don't know. And that's the thing that I find concerning, because, people complain about crap all the time. It doesn't get canceled. People are just well, don't participate. That's your choice.
And, I think you're right about the safety thing.
I'm I don't know.
I think you're right about the safety thing. If there was a real potential for harm here, a demonstrable potential for harm, then it would be if they were putting on a stage production of Lolita, I don't think that would be the best thing for those kids to be doing. Maybe we can have them put on a different show, but just because of the themes in that particular show, I don't think are necessarily appropriate for children to be portraying in that particular novel and film. But as far as I know, and you know more about the Crucible than I do. You were in a production of it. Is there anything are there suggestive theme? I know it was a dance. It was the dance where they were describing the allegations for the witch girls.
Well, the thing is, though, there's an alluded scene in the beginning of the play. This article mentioned that there was a bunch of girls in the woods, summoning spirits, and it's alluded to they were summoning the devil. But the rest of the play is about basically how Salem, Massachusetts, did a witch hunt. That is the whole point. And Arthur Miller used real court records of the things that were said and what happened in court. But the whole point of the play is to show moral panic, people believing in hysterica and supernatural, superstitious beliefs. So, Jason, you have firsthand experience dealing with bullshit from schools. So I'm curious what you're kind of feeling about this as someone that has dealt with bullcrap from schools, getting worried about nothing and worrying about the moral decay of the children.
Well, here's the thing. I've had this bird is cleaning. It's just happy. I'm sorry, I'm bird sitting, and it has to clean itself or it screams at me. It has to be on me. It fell in love with me. So sorry about that. It's just going nuts over here. Okay, so one, I've had to change schools. I've had to pull my kid out of a school, out of a school district. And I had to find a private school that, I've definitely put a lot of hard work into paying for. And whenever certain things arose at that school, luckily there were people there willing to have a conversation enough. It's interesting, in one occasion, my kiddo, there apparently was, how do I give it? Not too much. There was one kid who expressed some religious beliefs. My kid expressed some non-religious beliefs. They, started having a little bit of bickering. So one kid started wearing a lot of very religious shirts, but very blatant. So my kid has shirts that we generally wear around the house or to go see bands play, and black metal band shirts and a shirt that says "Gay for Satan," just fun shirts. And so my kiddo started wearing some of those shirts to school, and I'm like, oh man. So we had some conversations. We made some agreements that nobody's allowed to wear any blatantly religious stuff. So if my kid's not allowed to, nobody else is allowed to. So we came to some things. I brought up being members of the Satanic Temple, which, I know people have mixed feelings about different branches, but as a whole, they've actually helped me with some things, and I really appreciate what they've done. And it really opened up some good discussions. And we talked about atheism and equal rights, and my kid learned how to communicate with people who were willing to communicate but had different beliefs and stand up for themselves in a safe enough environment. So we've definitely learned a lot and are learning a lot right now with some recent situations we're going through about how people can target you and how you can present yourself. So the thing is, when you live in a place like in Texas and you have, let's say, atheistic leanings, queer tendencies, children of that nature, heaven forbid anything that's gender nonconforming, you're going to have to deal with these things in one way or another. And we refuse really to run. So we're just trying to learn how to play it smart. So my partner and I and my kid all go to different types of counseling and therapy and family sessions, and we work really hard together to navigate this world. So my advice would be become a really strong family unit and a team, and don't be a coward, but fight the right way, So that's me.
No, and I think that's a really, really good point, because I don't know. My kids are, been out of high school for a few years now. They're adults. I've been out of high school a while. So
like 7 years, right? Yeah.
Yeah, only 7.
7, maybe 8.
Only 7. Multiply that by 4. Anyway, so looking back on my own experiences and even my kids' experiences of these moral panics and things, it didn't happen very much. Mm-hmm. And now it seems that, with book bans and banning a play because it talks about
there was about a 20-year grace period. There was from Clinton until about 2 years after Obama, there was a little grace period, because I grew up in the Satanic Panic, and I grew up in a church that was very scary. And they were convinced demons were everywhere and everything was demonic. So I grew up, I mean, in that environment, but I'm realizing now that was much more insular than it really was. So we're looking at like a 20-year lag, but I agree. It's fucking scary now. Like, this is scary as fuck, and it's weird. And I hear people talking about it on the job site, which is a no-no. You know, you don't talk about that shit at work or at the bar or at the gym, and now people are, and I'm like, that's not good. Even with Southern ethics,
that's not good.
They're being like your Southern honor ethics are being destroyed. I don't know how good those are, but at least that was there. At least people would shut up, and nobody shuts the fuck up anymore.
Yeah. So, Tracy, I would like to get, as a former theater kid, I would like to hear your final word on this particular story, because it's not great, unfortunately.
I think my final word on this story is going to be an encouragement to those children that were affected by this. Don't allow and it doesn't seem like you are, because I saw a video response, sort of like a vlog from one of the actors. I watched that on the article, and they seem to be, you know, soldiering forth, especially after losing their director. Those in the arts are probably always going to be attacked for their expression of art. And just understand that that is one of the side effects of being in the arts, and that it isn't necessarily a comment on who you are. It's a comment on who the people are that are making these attacks.
Hell yeah.
It isn't a comment on you.
It means what you're doing is awesome. If somebody's hating on it and it messes with them, what you did was great. Do it again. Yeah, that's art. Art is there to like stick in your teeth. So yeah, kudos to whatever y'all did.
And I think that is a very good positive note to end this on. So if you want to hear more of what we have to say, and please find a video and like and subscribe, and maybe visit our merch shop, because we have clothing. So do that as well. And we'll see y'all next time.